this evening that is here for an item that is not on the agenda? Okay, if not, we will move on to the agenda. Actually, we're going to move to motion for the approval of the P&Z Commission meeting minutes for September 19th, 2016.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions or opposes? Okay. We'll move on to item number 6, Lakeside Fellowship. We're going to consider a motion to recommend approval of amended site plan.
Sure.
And if you'll state your name and your address for the record, please.
Sure. Doug Oldfest, I'm owner rep for Lakeside Fellowship Church, 930 East Southside Drive here in Polk City. And with me is Matt.
I'm Matt Bowman. I'm at 1405 Oakwood Drive here in Polk City, Iowa as well. I'm the representative for the Polk City United Soccer Board.
So the plan you have in front of you would just be an amendment to what we had originally from Lakeside on the soccer field. It's a much enlarged, much improved soccer field that the church has been working with North Polk Soccer Association on. And so we're just requesting approval on that amendment. It'll be a 5-year agreement that church will have with them to develop and maintain that soccer field as shown. And so I think the questions we've kind of gone through with Kathleen were put on here as far as the water system would tie to the church, be separately metered, and so for irrigation system, and then the rest of all the maintenance would be done by North Polk. So it's really a win-win for the community as well as the church and soccer association. I don't know if there's any questions on it, if it was clear. We can try to answer any questions.
And from our perspective, the last plans that came in addressed all of staff's concerns. Most of our concerns were really questions regarding, make sure that there was sufficient parking. And that, that they were going to work together on that. They've restricted some of their time frame on when they're going to have their games, and then work together, for weddings and funerals or whatever special events that the church may have. They'll work together. So we've had them note that there's no parking on public streets for the soccer fields. They've also noted that they're not going to have any lighting, so the fields won't be lit either. So.
Or concessions.
And there's not a concession stand, that's right. So.
When do you plan to start construction on this, and when will it be available for the soccer?
Well, I think we plan to start, I guess, as soon as we had approval. Would be the ideal situation. We're a little late on the seating window as it is now. It's just it's bare dirt as it sits now. So we would have to come in. We'd have to put the irrigation system in, and then we would follow by seating, and then realistically probably 6 to 9 months after the spring season commences of kind of general maintenance to get it up to where it should be. To ideal playing conditions. We're trying to do this right, so the goal is not to get it in necessarily as fast as possible, but to do it right so it's sustainable as well. So that's the time frame we're sitting in now that we would be looking at. So fall, I think, of next season, soccer season, which starts like end of August, beginning of September, would be at the earliest, I think.
So where this is at, that's where the phase 2 goes, is that right? That we looked at?
Correct.
Okay. So the grading
Yes.
work you're doing out there right now is for that?
No, phase 2 we're not sure what the grading impact would be yet.
Well, that was my question.
Right.
The grading you're doing now, is that for phase 2?
No.
What's it for?
The great, and I'll take that. I came in and met a little earlier on that. Is when we were when we were laying this grading plan out, I was working with the general contractor's earthwork company at the time, getting proposals in order to look at what the existing grade was and then putting into what a soccer grade would be in order to have the field have a proper slope. So when I got the quotes back from Holbrook, which was the excavating company, they had quoted based on the dimensions that I had worked with CDA and with Kathleen on, and in the general mix-up, I'll take blame for that, is they commenced on final grading or grading within the capacity of the way the field layout will be done earlier than what we had approval with. So I know there was some feedback on that. Once again, I take responsibility at the time, but at the time Holbrook, the earth moving company, was out there performing general grading on the site anyways, and they took it because they were there mobilizing, so they wouldn't have to remobilize, so they graded it out. With that being said, though, we have not shot official grade stakes on the site now, so I don't know how close it is or close it is to this finished grade that's been designed. I think it's relatively close, but we'd have to put elevation stakes on it to see how close it would be, and then from that point, my company would come in and do the final finish grading to get it to where it would absolutely need to be based on where the plan is. So grading that's been done now is premature.
Thanks.
What was I'm trying to remember what the site plan was before this amendment.
I thought you had it in your packet. The north part was the phase 2 part of the building, and there was the south part was an open area.
For various uses such as this. I mean,
Yeah,
it wasn't
yeah.
like this would be.
Yeah, it's just now it's expanded into where the phase 2 building would be.
Yeah, the smaller soccer field plan, but farther south, this is a much better use of that area.
Right here. Well, you didn't include that. I asked you to include it. Okay. Sorry, I thought they were going to include that plan in there.
Any additional comments, questions? Okay, go ahead. Oh, sorry. I'd entertain a motion.
Well, I'll move that we approve the site plan amendment, subject to review comments and recommendations of the city engineer on the site plan amendment dated October 18, 2016.
Second.
Roll call.
Vogel,
Yes.
Triplett,
Yes.
Bowersox,
Yes.
Sires,
Pass.
Hill,
Yes.
Dietz,
Yes.
Hankins,
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Love
Thank you.
this. We'll move on to item number 8, Lakewood Development. I want to do this. So,
12
Oh,
votes.
12 votes, my apologies. I already checked it off. 12 votes. Consider motion to recommend approval of final plat 4.
Yeah, this is the final plat for 12 Oaks Plat 4. We did confirm with the county that even though Plat 3, Plat 4 is now ahead of Plat 3, that we can stay with the Plat 4 number this time and not change everything, so it makes it cleaner from that standpoint in terms of legal documents and prior approvals and that kind of thing. So the Marlo Gelati's here, he's a developer, and he did decide to pave the Plat 4 was completing the cul-de-sac, also includes the outlot for the park. So with this plat, the city will be getting ownership of the pond and the parkland there. Construction is nearly complete. I believe this walkthrough's been scheduled for Wednesday, the last I heard, I believe.
I gotta talk to Mike tomorrow.
Okay, Tuesday, anyway, this week they're gonna be scheduling the walkthrough, so construction's complete. The idea would be that they would complete the punch list before this goes to council, or alternatively, we'd have a punch list and where we would assign values that it takes to complete it, and we'd have an agreement to complete with the developer providing a check as security for the completion of those punch list items, which we've done with Marlo before. So it would be kind of either or, depending on how this goes tonight, and also we need all the legal documents that need to be reviewed by the city attorney and approved by council. So this plat is 13 residential lots on the extension of 12 Oaks Court. It's in conformance with the preliminary plat, and construction's been moving forward with respect to the approved construction drawings. If you have anything further for me or for Marlo? Oh, I guess one other thing I should mention is that the developer is requesting that the sidewalk bond be waived, which we typically do when where the sidewalk is in front of, unless there's well, I didn't for Lost Lakes where it was on Broadway, but this is just a local residential street. Typically, you've waived the requirement for a sidewalk bond in those situations, and the sidewalks just come in as part of the building permit.
And these sidewalks do not really connect to neighborhoods or anything.
Right.
like this, I don't-
Yeah, they're not regional in nature, so we kind of assumed that would be the way you go, but we want to obviously make sure that you guys are aware of that, and if you have a concern about that, to let us know. So at this point in time, they're just asking for your approval of the final plat so it can move forward to council as soon as.
So the access to the park will be off 12 Oaks Drive there then?
Yeah, the access was actually dedicated to the city, and the city actually owns that already.
Okay.
It's just a 20-foot wide access, which is what was shown on the preliminary plat. With 12 Oaks Plat 2, a sanitary sewer service line and water service line was extended to that, so the city could, if they ever wanted to extend into the park, there is a service that was extended there as well.
Is there any parking for the park?
No. Other than on street, I should say. There's not a dedicated parking lot, and with only a 20-foot access easement.
How
Not gonna
much
get
of the park is not the pond?
I'd have to look back at the preliminary plat.
I think the whole thing is
I didn't-
close to 4.5 acres. And,
I don't know if I brought that.
you know, you got it about that.
Maybe. I can tell what the 100-year flood is. I can show you on a sketch, I don't have the acreage. When it came through the first time, they did say how many usable acres it was, and it met the requirement, the parkland dedication requirement for all the lots in 12 Oaks. But on the preliminary plat, this was approved as part of 12 Oaks Plat 2's preliminary plat, which approved 12 Oaks 2, 3, and 4 all at the same time. And here, I'll kind of bring this around. But this kind of shows where the limits of the pond are. Again, I don't know the acreage, I'm sorry about that, but
4.52 in the
you've got
comp plan
this
is
access strip
identified.
is here, you've got a usable acre here, area here. The storm sewer extends so you can get to that area, but it's not really accessible. The park does have street frontage here, but you really can't.
See, that goes in here.
Get there from me.
And then here's the,
There's that.
20.
So this is the primary area that you'd have access to. You can get to this because of the storm sewer that went across, but that's there's a good chunk of it, that's more the high water level, that's normal pool.
So is this actually gonna have, but this isn't gonna be,
That's not an easement, this is your access right here. That's an easement for the storm sewer, and it's got an overland flowage easement in it, so there's a little bit of a swale in there.
So it's like 3.58 acres or so.
Ish, yeah. Oh, no, this says, right here, sorry, I didn't have my reading glasses. It's 3.64 acres total and 1.988 acres, so 2 acres that are usable. I don't know if that counts anything here at all. This is really what's usable. This,
Right.
even, I mean, you've got an easement there, and that's a pretty steep embankment, so that's,
A ravine, pretty much.
That's part of it,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
so. Now, let's just remind you what the preliminary plat looked like when that was approved.
How much?
It did, it's 2 acres usable. I don't know how much of it was here versus here. This is more usable, this is, like I said, because it's- they extend the storm sewer, you can get there. This area is not really, because it's pretty much an embankment, there's trees, and a storm sewer easement and that kind of thing there. So really, you've got 20-foot wide access to those areas. So that's gonna be more in the primary developable area. I suppose you can.
That's usable.
Yeah. Well, yes, but it's not counted as usable area. Or,
Swim in my summertime.
you can,
Ice skate.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
but when usable, we're saying in terms of meeting your code. Difficult. Thank you for that. This is, well, that's.
So just to clarify on your write-up, Kathleen, is that, it says 12 Plat 2, this is 4?
This is 4. Yes, I just wanted to make sure you were reading this.
Okay.
The preliminary plat was plat 2. This, we're doing the final plat for plat 4.
Okay.
Yes, sorry.
Well, I just wanted to make sure the motion was.
Yeah, it's the motion should be for. I try to reuse old memos when I can, and sometimes I.
Okay.
Was that water existing?
Yes, yeah.
I know. Well, I think.
Yeah, it was a pond, I don't know what year it was built at all, but it was kind of an old farm pond. They did reevaluate it, and with Plat 1, they reconstructed the outlet structure so that it had more of a controlled outlet and did provide some detention, which the old pond had a smaller outlet and it was not controlled, so. So they did rebuild the outlet part, but the pond itself and the dam was there previously.
The old pond predates me,
Does it?
so you know, the Indians were here.
I don't even remember it.
Huh?
I don't remember it. It was all private property back there.
Oh, yeah, it was all, yeah.
Yeah.
Ready for?
Yep.
I move we approve final plat of 12 Oaks Plat 4 with the 5 recommendations that are listed.
I second.
Roll call, please. Okay. Bowersox,
Yes.
Sires,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Dietz,
Yes.
Pinkins,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Triplett.
No. Okay, we'll move on to item number 8, Lake Woods Development.
Yeah, Caleb Smith is here on behalf of Todd and Christy Drake to discuss the rezoning and PUD master plan that's proposed for their property that's located north of Lakeside Fellowship Church's property, and would include Edgewater, the extension of Edgewater Drive.
Trying to turn it so everybody can see it as best as possible. If you've got any questions, I can kind of turn it around a little bit. Again, Caleb Smith from Quinn Engineering Company here representing Todd and Christy Drake. As many of you recall, we were here a few months ago talking to you about the project and the potential rezoning out here that we were proposing. And from that meeting and the feedback we got from P&Z, We went back and met with the neighbors, as was kind of directed here by the commission. Got some pretty good feedback there. Some ideas we're going to do to work on tree preservation, specifically along the east side and the north side of the property, and how that may work. It's kind of mixed. Some people want the trees gone, some people want them to stay. So we've agreed that when the time comes, we'll do a walkthrough with everybody who wants to and address the situations and see what we can do to salvage those trees. Talked a lot about the density. I know density was a big issue that was here last time. After the meeting, Todd, Christie, and I went back to the drawing board to figure out what we could do to make the project work for them, as well as to kind of address the density concern. And the hard part we got was with just the general cost associated with the project. We just couldn't find a point where we could release too many units. As we started working back and forth with staff a little bit, an idea Kathleen came up with, I got to give her credit for, was to do a cul-de-sac here and seeing if we can make this feel maybe a little bit more residential. That's kind of a good thing. Fire had a little bit of concern with the hammerhead design, as you might recall we had there. This would take care of that condition, would allow for the fire truck to navigate around that cul-de-sac without having to back up. And I think it really kind of creates a little bit more of a single-family feel to the area. So we did that. The one compromise to make that happen was we had originally proposed 8-foot side yards for those bi-attached units, so that'd be 16 in total. Just because of space and everything, we're requesting that we get 7 on each side or 14 total. So pretty comparable to single family, but it's a little bit narrower just to make sure we can get the density.
And that's just on the Lincoln Way units?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Other item we added as we worked through this is Todd and Christie are proposing to do a little gazebo here, kind of by that central parking area. We now have a sidewalk along the east side of Lincoln Way Drive that will connect to Edgewater to the south here, can bring folks in and out of the subdivision and get access to that gazebo. Of course, with the overflow parking, that'd be nice if there were some small gatherings there that people could park there. So I'm trying to create a little bit of a open space amenity in the middle of the project that's reasonably accessible for most of the folks in the development. Other than that, the only other real big change that we have is we've got a little bit of information. We talked about a lot what kind of product these are going to look like. So what Todd and Christie did is work to kind of say, hey, here's the projects in town that we saw that were kind of the motivation for the project. And so what you can see over here, and I'm sorry, it's really small. If people want to come up, they can. What you can see here, these are examples of the villas. This is actually built in Urbandale. Hubble Homes built them. In the packet, I think, was included with our rezoning, so everybody should have it. I will note, in that project, they allow for 5-foot side yard setbacks on those villas, which are very, very narrow. Keep in mind, we're going to keep the 8-foot on each side on those villa units, just like would be with the single-family lot across the street. So as you look at how close they are, it was just that specific project. They'll definitely, they will be proposed to be wider in this project. On the right side, you can see some examples of some bi-attached projects. This is out of Grant Park in Waukee. Very nice product, built here last couple of years. Has done very well for an area that they've kind of had trouble getting some units to go up in. And that's the motivation for what they're thinking those bi-attached units could look like. Now, keep in mind, Drake Homes has a very unique style. If you haven't been on the website or not familiar with their product, I encourage you to take a look. It's just different. And I can tell you from conversation after conversation, they're not going to deviate from their style. So you're going to see a very nice, unique product in here. And when I say unique, I'm not saying, you know, crazy curves and stuff, but it's a very nice architectural look in my humble opinion. So this is kind of the scale and size of what the project can be with that Drake Homes kind of architectural flavor to it. So there will be some changes. Again, assuming we get the rezoning approval and we come back with a site plan, we will have detailed elevations showing you this information so you can see it. We want to make sure we get that rezoning in place before we spend a whole lot more money moving forward. So, other than that, I think that addresses all items. I will note in the packet, there's also an information sheet. It's the same information sheet we had at the neighborhood meeting that talks about square footages, rough price points that we expect to see in the development. And again, those pricing maybe is in that mid-range kind of range. It may fluctuate up and down around that it always depends on the end user, you know, if they want to do some really high-end finishes, could certainly push the price well above the numbers we're showing here. But that gives you a flavor of what the plan is and what we think the market needs to hit. So if there's any questions on that, Todd and Christie here, they can talk about it. But I think that's kind of addresses as many items as we could take care of. Acknowledging the density thing is one thing we kind of had to keep a hold of to make the project work. But we tried to make some changes here. We think that addresses some of the other concerns and maybe makes this a little bit more of an agreeable project. Be happy to answer any questions anybody has at this point.
One thing I may mention is that they did have 73.7% consent, 100% was well over the 50% required. And I guess the only other thing that maybe not overly material, but we did make sure that they lined up the cul-de-sac, Lincoln Way with the church's driveway.
Oh, that's correct. Yeah, thank you.
So you didn't reduce any units at all, you have the same number of units?
Yes, sir.
Despite us asking you to reduce the density?
Yeah, with this project, the way it's set up.
That's all right, you answered it, thanks.
Okay.
Is there a packet that you handed out to the forum here? One that we could see? I'm a resident, 901 Edgewater. If there's a packet with the sizes and the price specifications and so on.
It's the same information that's handed out at the neighborhood meeting that you were handed. I got a copy of everything that was submitted. It's like, again, it's most of the information you guys have seen. We haven't changed anything.
Okay.
Do you have comments?
Yeah, my only comments are that, I suppose I'll stand up here. My name's Lance Jackson. I am the owner of 901 Edgewater. It's on the corner of Edgewater and Tyler there. It's where the new street's going through. And the Drakes, they seem like very nice people, very pleasant, absolutely nothing against them personally. My worries are that by putting multiple family units in there, they're going to devalue the property at Edgewater. So I guess I would be opposed to the rezoning to the PUD and would like for it to remain a single-family residential area.
Thank you. Any other, yeah, go ahead.
I guess my name is Steve Worston. I live at 900 Tyler, and I guess I feel the same as he does. My concern is that, you know, it has been set as residential and changing that. I guess I question why then we have plans if all we're going to do is change them because someone finds it more profitable to pack more people in. Again, you know, if you look, it's going to increase the density. The plan was for single-family homes and to have a community. And with that, you know, studies have shown that, you know, people that rent, you know, only stay an average of about 2 years. So the plan would, you know, there would be no families and no real community that could develop at that point.
As well as, I believe, sorry, I jumped in here on your time, but we have multiple family units here, multiple family units all up along here, and actually across the street over here is the apartment complexes. So it seems like, it feels like we're getting inundated with that type of housing. And when I bought and built the house back in 2001, it wasn't zoned that way. And I understand that they're trying to make economical dollars and cents decisions, and it's just a matter of economics. The more people you put in an area, the more money you get. We all understand that. What we're trying to do is preserve the value of our houses that's already up.
And that was the plan when we moved in, and when we moved there, you know, the plan was that it was going to be residential. It's always been that plan, if I remember correctly. When the Drake said that they bought it, it was already scheduled as residential.
No, it was zoned ag at that time.
Well, since that time, it has changed, so, and it is scheduled that way, so I guess I don't see why we should have to change it just for a financial consideration for one person as compared to the rest.
Excuse me, are these going to be rentals, what you're proposing now?
Everything's going to be built on a sellable lot with the intent that they would love to sell to an end user. So it's not going to be units on a property that's all together in one lot. So each unit will be able to be transferred. If they can't be sold, then the Drakes will rent the units, but the intent is to sell the units if at all possible.
Go ahead.
I guess I've read studies before with condominiums that on average only 25% are ever sold. 75% are usually rented. So I guess that's my other concern when they say that, you know, they're going to be sold, is the fact that chances are that they're not going to be. They're going to be rented. And this will all become a rental property.
Another thing that I was, there was something brought up that there was like 73% acceptance rate or wording thereabouts. I'm wondering where you got that number from. Is it people that didn't protest against, or was that fielded by an individual?
The 73% were people who signed the petition in agreement with the proposed rezoning.
The way the city ordinance works is that they figure out the area surrounding it, and it's a percentage of the area, not necessarily the number of owners, that has to consent. So we have 73% of the surrounding area around the property that consented to this rezone. In fact, we got a couple of additional signatures at our neighborhood meeting that night to kind of help get that number up a little bit from where it was previously.
Just, this is, the way they calculate the area, it's 250 feet. So those are the property owners, and this is actually, this is where we came up with that 73.7 million who signed this.
Okay.
Now granted, obviously, yeah, the larger property owners, they're going to be higher percentage.
Okay, I get it. So the larger the
Yeah, it's
property,
by
the
area.
higher, okay, the higher
Yep.
percent. So they only need 2 or 3 to get 75%. Judging by the land.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Big landowners in the area.
Yeah.
I understand.
Todd Drake Holmes, and I was just gonna see if Caleb could explain the fact that the lots directly behind the single-family lots that you guys are talking about, those are zoned R1, and we're not changing that zoning. And then even across the street from there is, even though it's a villa, it's still a single-family home.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
the question came up, why the change? And I can tell you, when Todd and Christie had originally planned this area, the street was meant to go all the way throughout the Parker. And at that time, there was an agreement that this was going to be single-family lots. Well, as this property was being held through the downturn, this project moved forward, in which case they changed the game of what's happening here and what's happening here. And the intent here was for single-family lots when Todd and Christie were planning it. So with that changed the dynamic. This road no longer came through, and we have to figure out how to transition from this product type here to the existing single-family residence over here. And so what we did is we kept the single-family lots here. That's actually not part of the rezoning request. That's staying exactly the same as it was originally proposed. As we stepped across here, we were proposing these villa units, which are a little narrower than what the single-family lot would allow, but it's still a single-family home. And as the information sheet, and I've got a copy here, is still a very valuable in unit. And then stepping down into the bi-attached, which then steps into this multifamily, heavier multifamily use. We have to transition in a reasonable manner that type of use all the way across, because it's not very common to have this kind of multifamily slammed up next to single family. You usually have some sort of townhome light version that comes in here, and that's what we're trying to propose with this development. That's the reason for the change. End of the day, it's a reaction to what's most of the economy and the price points we did. It's also a reaction to what's happened around it that we can't change now. We have to come up with a new plan.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons for the change. The other thing is we are trying to be as good of a neighbor as we possibly can. And ideally, it'd be great if we came in with all single-family lots. But the reality is, with the spacing that is left in here, and the fact that we don't have a road that we connect in here to, we're going to end up with lots that are very, very small, very tight, very narrow backyards. We laid this out initially, and Todd and Christie said we can't move forward. We're too close here. We're going to rip out every single tree that's on this subdivision to make it work. And we're going to end up having to put some lower end housing here. It's the only way you're going to make those lots make sense, because they're going to be so shallow.
Has anybody done a study on the difference of the valuation of the property around as opposed to what you do, whether you keep it a single-family home or you turn it into a...
I haven't seen any studies. I don't know if Kathleen's seen any in her time that suggests that. Maybe someone on the commission has too. I haven't. What I can tell you is this. What's being proposed next door is going to be equal to, or maybe a touch higher, depending on the finishes that come into here. Could be some very nice houses that are going to back up there. The units that are here, these are not low-end units. They're higher-end units. So the spec sheet is even calling a price point that I was even challenging Todd and Christie today about, man, that number seems high. No, people are going lower. He goes, no, this is the price we need to be at. We're around that 250 plus or minus a little bit. And that's carried all the way through here. The one thing I can say is this, as a property owner in Polk City.
Per unit's 250 or
Correct. Not for both sides. I mean, one side would be 250.
One side would be 250, the other side would be 250.
As a taxpayer, it's actually a better deal for you, because from a city service perspective, with this being a private street, the city doesn't have to plow it, they don't have to maintain all the pavement or anything else. That's responsibility of the association. So the city gets the tax base for these lots, more lots than what was there before, at a similar price point. So it's actually, from a tax perspective, a better situation to have private roads like this and have density. There's more studies that are going to say this is the kind of development that should be encouraged in communities, and you're seeing more cities starting to embrace it because of that tax valuation that it does provide. You have to provide less services when you get more taxes for it. It's a city council argument. Gary might appreciate that a little more, having to deal with the financial sides of things, but that's one of the reasons why this is a good thing for the city as a whole as well, that I think sometimes gets overlooked.
Caleb, I have, just when we're talking about that it had always been single family in that area, and I apologize, I have a recollection, and it may not, I don't know how factual it is, and I thought I'd check with you. My recollection is that when it was rezoned to R1A, and that you were involved at that point in time, that it actually been commercial before that?
Very good question. I don't recall, and I don't know if you guys
I think it was because
I
they
think it
had
was commercial.
a business there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was commercial all the way up. I mean, back in,
Yeah.
I don't know what year you rezoned it to the R1A.
Five
Four or five? So
somewhere there.
before 2004 or 5, that was commercial. I am pretty darn sure. I would want to verify that, but I do believe that at one point it was commercial.
One point is commercial, now it's R1A, now you're trying to
Right.
turn it into...
Yep, and I don't know, it was the commercial, I wasn't around when they did that, so I don't know what they were planning for sure when it was commercial. That was before I started working with the city, so I don't.
I think the owner had a repair shop at the time.
Bernie then.
Bernie.
Yeah,
Bernie
we
Bell.
took out about 100 loads of trash.
Trash, yeah. we
Yeah,
bought it.
he had a lawnmower
Yeah,
repair shop.
yeah.
Because this will be like a townhome association, right?
Yes,
Where,
sir.
the maintenance and all is, it'd be like the Wolf Creek townhomes on the other side.
Yeah, so everything inside the PUD boundary will be inside the association. Single-family lots inside, they'd be treated like normal single-family units.
What's the overall plan for Edgewater when that'll punch through?
They're, I think, in the moment, they're trying to punch it through right now.
Yeah,
They're-
I mean, we show here to the edge of this.
Yeah,
development, will it be-
just with, when Bruce Lefkoe platted Parker Townhomes, Plat 1 was what that was. They dedicated the right-of-way to the city. The city has an agreement that requires Bruce to extend that. He has already extended the water and sewer so that the church has services off of that. So the water and sewer are extended to that property line. He'll have to come back with storm sewer and paving. But Bruce is aware of that. It just, he hasn't moved forward with that because right now it'd be a street to nowhere. So that at the time, once we know for sure when this would move forward, Bruce would be brought into the loop on that.
There's a commitment requirement that
Yeah,
can be done.
there is a recorded development agreement. Yep.
So just some questions, I guess, about parking. Well, first of all, the portion that's outside of the PUD between the homes on Tyler and essentially the row of homes just west of the homes that are currently on Tyler. Yeah, off of the Roosevelt. So those would have the normal setbacks for a residential lot. So
Yes,
there'll
sir.
be plenty of room for driveway parking in addition to the garage parking, so it'll easily meet the 4 spaces per unit. And then across the street then is the Villa Design, and that has the 30-foot setback. So again, should be plenty of room for 4 spaces off-street per unit, 2 on the driveway, 2 in the garage. As we get into the cul-de-sac, those are only a 20-foot setback. Is that enough room?
That meets your code in terms of parking stall requirement is 20
Okay.
feet. And the 20 feet is from the curb, we're on the side that doesn't have a sidewalk. It's measured from the edge of the sidewalk in the garage on the east side where there is a sidewalk.
Okay.
Now, my suspicion is with the sidewalk being right at the back of curb, that we may need to look at potentially a rolled curb so that you can
push it
make,
back. Yeah.
just in order to make the sidewalk and the driveway grades work. I've seen a project where they tried to make it work with a 6-inch curb, and it just, quite frankly, didn't. So we'll probably have a rolled curb, which the city doesn't particularly like because of snow plows, but they'll be doing their, whoever's plowing that street's also going to be plowing all the driveways and the sidewalks, so it'll be kind of comprehensive that way.
I live on a private street with a sidewalk like that, and it is a maintenance measure. It's not the city's problem. it's
No,
our problem.
no, and snow storage, they may have to haul snow out. Again, that's the association's deal to deal with, but.
Kathleen, I have a couple of questions. New comprehensive plan and the existing comprehensive plan show this as single family, correct?
It showed, the new it shows it as low-density residential, which I believe is defined as, and I apologize, I guess I have it
This
here.
particular thing would be R1A because it was rezoned right now.
Well, the comprehensive plan is more, it's not necessarily zoning based.
Right.
So it's more based on land use, so therefore it allows, and I want to say it's up to 4 dwelling units an acre under the definition part of your low density. This gets into medium density because it's 5.1 dwelling units an acre. And that's why you'll see on your agenda that there's a comprehensive plan amendment that would change it from low density residential to medium, not to high, but to medium density residential.
Yeah, I'm looking at the residential zoning districts, what's allowed. The table on 826, and it allows, of course, single-family detached, and it allows single-family bi-attached and duplexes. No, I'm in the wrong thing, not that. It only allows residential single-family detached, and it allows residential single-family garden homes in townhome regime.
Which is a villa. That's what the villa is.
So they could build this with their villas, but not as dense as what they want to do it, is that correct?
Yeah,
Under the
and
current zoning.
yeah, and the problem too is, in terms of applying a private street to the R1A, then you start getting into, well, you're technically supposed to have a 40-foot setback, and the application of the rules gets to be a little bit challenging when you've got the private street there too. I'm not saying you couldn't do it, but if, look at your table here.
So the second part of my question was,
But and I would guess the lot size wouldn't,
they just have to be
less dense. Uh-huh.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you. And we say nothing about whether it's rented or not, right?
No, I mean, you could, You can rent out a single-family
You can build a
home.
house and rent it, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no, I don't know, like you've got Wolf Creek townhomes and Tournament Club townhomes. I have no idea what the percentage of owners versus renters are there. I don't have any idea.
Well, I guess I'd like to point out that there's nothing wrong with this type of development, as you said, in the right place. I just don't think it's in the right place, because it affects many people that were under the impression that there's going to be development of single-family homes there, and not this density. And to me, that was one of the reasons that last time we met, that we sent you back and asked you to do something about it, and you didn't.
Appreciate that.
Any other comments, questions? Do we have any comments or questions?
Well, I would just like to say that, given what we're given at this point, we're the ones that are taking on getting everything from the single family and going down to Bruce's multifamily. We're the ones that are absorbing all of the change and the transition necessary to make that change. And we're leaving everything behind these folks' house just exactly as it was zoned originally. And then even one step further, the villas are very similar to a lot of homes that you see here in town, size-wise. But I can tell you that, and no disrespect to anybody, but I mean, these things will be extremely nice, and they will be, even the bi-attached will be a compliment to the neighborhood. And we really have good plans for this, and it's going to look nice.
I'm Christy Drake, and I have to stand up because I can't let him do all the talking. I want to address you, Doug. You said you don't think this is the right place for it, but when we bought this, it was not, Bruce wasn't there with all those, I don't know what you call them, his string of stuff. And then that was the first place he put, and then the second place he put all those garages along there. So and I'm a realtor, and I mean, would you want to buy a single family house backing up to a bunch of garages? For some reason, people think that's a really bad thing. So we are trying to, like Todd said, we didn't change any of the single family backing up to the single family. A villa, Todd and I both used to work for Rollin Homes probably 15, 20 years ago. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but they built the villa product, or you call it the garden product, and then they built townhomes. I'm sorry, I'm shaking. we don't have to stand up in front of people when we're working.
Right.
Anyway, if you go by any of those developments now, they're 15 years old, they're beautiful. They're maintained because they have an association. You asked, you didn't like the hammerhead last time, so we did make the cul-de-sac. I mean, we're trying to work with everybody here. We met with the neighbors because you asked us to. I think, I mean, we've explained our position, they've explained theirs. We're really trying to work with the single family, and like I said, no, we're not changing it. But that's my 2 cents.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your comments, and I also appreciate the comments of the neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
My point is that you are allowed to build the villas. That's okay. And they do look nice, and they will look nice, and we understand all that. My point is, it's too dense. It's denser than what we like to see there.
But is it compared to Bruce? I mean, don't you think it goes the natural progression?
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that.
Okay.
I don't know what the density is right now and all that type of stuff, so.
Bruce's is more dense than what we're proposing on our ground. So I mean, we're taking the natural progression from single family to high density. I mean, we're taking that all on ourselves, the trans.
Plus, we're trying to get, I mean, it's affordable living. That's the idea. Start a fire farm.
You know, I get frustrated every time we keep continually changing things that were already in place. I mean, or laid out to be a certain way, and we continually change that. And the problem with this particular situation is that those apartments have come in,
Yes.
and they weren't originally intended to be there. And now we're facing a situation of that transition area between the single-family homes into that apartment complex. And I do think that we do need a more variety of housing than just single-family. So I think, I mean, I don't like having to change things, but because of the way things are now with the apartments and the church now on the south and the other development that's taking place in that area, that this is a reasonable solution to that problem of transitioning and also providing some other types of housing.
Half a minute. The problem that I see it is the knee-jerk reaction to the gentleman that built all of these here. Now, Christie and Todd had owned the property when the proposal for those to go in, and at that point, they would have had a chance, being a landowner, to oppose that. Am I right or am I wrong? So at that time, okay, whatever way that got pushed through, it happened. It is what it is. But this is, and I guess I'm taking liberties to speak for my friend behind me, this is now our chance to not necessarily right the wrong, because like I said, I agree that something could be done here, but I'm wondering if there's some kind of something else. You know, if there's a progression, then let that progression stand as it is by value from here forward. So it seems to me that the logical fix to this is take the property, split it in half, on this half, do residential family, single-family homes, and on the other half, build the townhomes or whatever they want to do. Just my suggestion. I think that that's a position where everybody can still make out all right.
But isn't that kind of what?
I was going to say,
Yeah,
we're about
that is what they're doing.
95% there, I think.
Yeah.
But you're proposing that only this section here are residential single-family homes, correct?
No, there's, no, the next line is single family.
Those are all
These are single-family
Those-
homes
yes.
also.
But they're part of the,
Association.
Association.
Lawns get mowed.
Oh, they have the association dues.
you know,
Well, I think what you're saying is what I'm trying to say too. There's nothing wrong with the villa homes, but the density, if it were reduced some, would be an easier progression into it, you know, which is more along what at least the neighbors want there. So, and what I'm hearing,
Yeah,
that are here.
yeah.
I'm going to chime in. I'm Nate Rising. I live on 717 Roosevelt. I am a neighbor. I'm in support. So there are neighbors in support who aren't large landowners either. So. I speak on my dad's behalf too. He owns 905 Roosevelt, and he signed at the community as well.
Which I would say is probably one of the most affected homes.
My argument would, my home, maybe 140 if I'm being generous to myself. And, I have a hard time saying that the value is going to be decreased by putting a bunch of homes that are almost twice the cost around it.
I guess my concern with changing the density, and that is, we keep hearing about how well it was agriculture, it was commercial back then, but in '04 and '05, none of our homes were here yet. Mine wasn't built until at that time. Would have they been built then? It's hard to go back and to say, well, back then, it was this. Well, back then, that was all cornfields too, the majority of it. And I know, to my neighbor behind me here, that, he's for it, and I understand that and I respect that, but to say that we're gonna have a townhome that costs as much as $250,000 when I can get on a website right now and find townhomes or homes they're building in town and that are $250,000. I guess my concern is how realistic are we being here? To say we're gonna build $250,000 townhomes, and you even said yourself, you question those price points. My concern is we're looking at this as the future. Yes, that's what we would like, but is that really what's going to happen if we change this to medium density? Or is it going to be, well, we've gotten started in this, now the price points, that isn't going to work, we're going to have to change it. And at that point then, it's out of our control. So yes, it'd be great to maybe have some $350,000 homes behind us. But what's the reality of that when you can go across the street of Parker and get that price home there, with it being a single family?
I just researched sales in Polk City today, and between 275 and 325 there is the least amount of available in most home sales in town.
But there is homes for that price that are new, brand new, yes.
Well, we have researched this thing till down to the last blade of grass, so we know what we're doing. This is what we do for a living.
I understand
And
this is what you
we wouldn't go into a $10 million project like this if we didn't know that it was going to work or have a good high probability of it working.
Again, I guess my question is, has anybody put numbers together? Does anybody know how this is going to affect the value of the housing in the area this year, 5 years, 10 years down the road? Does anybody know that number?
If I may,
Sure.
Chairman, average home values in Polk City have increased
every year.
every year. That means mine's increased, everybody, and I happen to be a neighbor to this too, not close enough to sign, but built a duplex across from me, my property tax went up $300, so then it tells me it didn't devalue my property. But also I was opposed to it at the time, but I don't even notice it now.
To my knowledge, all the townhome associations in town are fairly successful and doing okay. I mean, I know there were some problems with Wolf Creek at the beginning, but I think they've worked through their issues there, and I think they're doing, in fact, I think, isn't there more building going on down there?
There has been, the last 2 years.
I know the one up on the TCI there, that seems to be doing okay, so. I don't know, the fact that it's a townhome association, I don't think is.
No, and my concern isn't with that it being a townhome association. My concern is with the change in density. In changing that density, we would lose all control or choices over it being a single-family community. Like I said, we're looking at $350,000 price points for the villas and on down. And just like you said, that you even question that if that's probable. Well, if we're looking at the high end, how successful will that be? If there is another downturn. They held on to it because there was a downturn. Well, if prices homes suppress a little bit, will these then become, instead of 350, well, we can't do that, and make them sellable, or have that issue, kind of like they did at Wolf Creek. And, then it becomes closer to what Mr. Campbell has.
To your point, you're making an assumption here that I was challenging them because I believe them to be wrong. I was challenging them because...
No, I'm not challenging them.
Well, what I challenge them is to say, when we go in and present these facts to the commission, I want to make sure we're very comfortable with these numbers. I know in all throughout the metro area, it is almost impossible to build a house for under $225,000 no matter what you do, period, end of story. So the reality is to say that these are going to be $250, it doesn't surprise me at all. I just wanted to make sure that they were very comfortable with the numbers we were going to present. We're going to be as realistic as we have right now. They came back to me, Todd told me about the research he did, told me why it was so important, told me about other projects they've looked at, and it came back to, yeah, that's the right number. We came forward with that's the numbers we're comfortable with. So yeah, I constantly challenge these guys. They constantly challenge me. It's part of the process, but it's only to make sure that we're 100% confident with that before we move forward with it. End of the day, these are going to be $225,000 to $275,000 probably, plus or minus, in that range is probably where you're going to hit. And that's why we came out with 250s, right? The mid-range point is probably the most realistic. That's substantial pricing. I don't know how, in this market, what the size they're trying to, of lots of units trying to go, they can go cheaper.
And the villas, are they still going to have 3-car garages?
Some will, yep. Right up here, the 2 units showing up here have 3-car units, and the transition out of single family. Down here, these will have 2-car stalls. Same, that's been the same thing from the presentation.
Why, might I ask, because I wasn't here before, why did the Planning and Zoning Commission send you back to the drawing board to try to reduce the number of lots on there? I mean, I guess they must see something, I guess kind of like we're seeing is, seems to be that there's too many houses in that area, or too many houses with multifamily housing in that area. It's my assumption. Like I said, I wasn't here for the last meeting. I only know that the gentleman up front, Doug Cyrus, said that they kind of sent you back to the drawing table to see if there wasn't something else that could be done. So can you
I can't speak for the
on that?
commission. I'll let the commission speak for why they sent us back. I just know they asked us to come back, meet with the neighbors. We did it, and to reevaluate a variety of things. And we've addressed as many of them as we can and still make this project make sense for Todd and Christie. At this point in time, this is as good as we can do with all the constraints we've got on it to make this project work for them. And so that's why we're here. Yes, as I answered Commissioner Cyrus' question, we have not reduced density. We did everything we could to do that, and we're just not in a position that that's a possibility to still make this project work. We tried to accommodate all the other comments to the best we could, and I think we've come as close to a compromise here, with the exception on the density, as we possibly can.
And kind of your point, we might, if the economy keeps growing like it is, I mean, those things could be 400,000. But I don't want to come out and say that. I'm trying to be realistic, but the economy is growing, Oak City's growing.
Yeah, and I understand
you just don't know.
that it's growing, but in realistic, it's great to say that we're going to hit the high end, and then to just kind of brush off, or like you said, you have 225 to 275, so you say 250, and you keep talking about the 275. What about the 225 and lower? Is my concern, because if this changes to medium density, that's what we have to worry about. Because you did mention, when we did ask you at that meeting, what happens if they say no to this? And you said, well, we're going to try to pack as many cheap houses as possible in there. Yes, you did.
And you also mentioned that you wanted to remain a cornfield for the rest of the
Yeah,
time.
It isn't a cornfield right now.
City will change.
My concern when I said about what you say is a cornfield isn't, My concern was about the trees that are in there that you said would all be torn out.
We greatly appreciate your comments. Thank you very much. We're gonna move on.
So, yeah, I guess have a couple of comments. First of all, I agree with Commissioner to my right here regarding the stair stepping of density from the current single-family homes over to the Parker townhomes. I think that's a pretty reasonable, gradual increase of density. I appreciate that the Drakes did not include the row of houses behind where the current residents live within the PUD request, and appreciate then on the other side of the street that the single family units, the villa units are still there, but within the association, kind of adding to that stair stepping. You know, it may have been nice, and also appreciate that the hammerhead was taken out, because that was just a non-starter, I know, for me on the last go-around. You know, I think there's a lot of positive things in this request, given the cards that were dealt over time. So anyway, those are just some thoughts and observations.
Anyone else from the commission?
Also, I guess I have a question for staff. It's just, I just want to refresh my memory again regarding a PUD master plan. So essentially, if a PUD master plan is approved, not one single unit more than what's shown on this plan can be built within that PUD.
Correct.
And they have to be built in this configuration.
Yes, the PUD master plan essentially sets out the bulk regulations. So you couldn't have narrower side yard setbacks or front yard setbacks or anything that way either.
So once the PUD is approved, or if it is approved, if they want to make any changes to that, they have to come back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to need to make...
Approval by us and from council.
Right, they'll need to, I mean, because they haven't done drainage design, so they're going to have to make drainage work. They've kind of indicated where the detention would be. They're going to have to make that work within the parameters of the building footprints that they've, and street layout that they've got. So we'll have to obviously bring in utilities, that kind of thing as well. We'll get that kind of detail at a later date.
Now, what is really, what is before us here? I wasn't sure when you said rezoning, but that is a PUD master plan, and what is?
Well, the reason, to go to PUD zoning, it requires a master plan, because essentially PUD wipes out the zoning that's there, and so this is what you're replacing it with. So you have to have both, because your bulk regulations in terms of lot size and setbacks and all of that kind of stuff are wiped out by the PUD and replaced with the PUD master plan. So, and then the first part is to amend the future land use plan from the comprehensive plan from low density to medium density. But you would be limiting it in this case to the 5.1 dwelling units an acre, because that's what you've got here.
Thank you.
I would make well, as I look at it, we would need to approach this in three separate motions. So I would make a motion to recommend to council approval of the future land use plan amendment for low-density residential to medium-density residential for the west 7.94 acres of Outlot A of Lakewoods Plat 1. And that would be, tying to that would be the rezoning map showing there. And I'm sorry, the land use map showing there.
I'll second.
Is it outlet Y or outlet A?
Outlet Y. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, outlet Y. Thank you. Yeah.
Vogel?
Yes.
Triplett?
Yes.
Bowersox?
Yes.
Sires?
No.
Hill?
Yes.
Dietz?
Yes.
Hankins?
Yes. Would also make a motion that we recommend to council approval of rezoning of the 7.94 acres from R1A and PUD, its current zoning, to be a solely PUD over the entire 7.94 acres.
Dietz.
Yes.
Hankins.
Yes.
Vogel.
Yes.
Triplett.
Yes.
Bowersox.
Yes.
Sires.
No.
Hill.
Yes.
And then also would like to make a motion that we recommend to council approval of the PUD master plan, subject for the Lakewoods project, subject to engineers' comments dated, city engineers' comments dated October 12th, 2016, and as depicted on the attached master plan diagram.
Second.
Dietz.
Yes.
Hankins.
Yes.
Vogel.
Yes.
Triplett.
Yes.
Bowersox.
Yes.
Sires.
No.
Hill.
Yes.
Thank you very much, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item number 9, council liaison.
Not a whole lot, other than a lot of time was spent at the last council meeting talking about park use again, land use for parks. We spent a lot of time on that. Didn't come up with any conclusions, but we spent a lot of time on it. And we also spent a lot of time on islands and roads. That's all I'm gonna say.
Fair enough. Staff report.
So actually, I have a follow-up question. We still haven't gotten good direction from council, I think, on council's view of lakes in parks or ponds in parks, and whether future forward that that's something that we should discourage. Since you brought up parks, I thought I'd ask that follow-up question.
I can only speak for myself, but I know the ones we've had are kind of a headache. Those and overland water easements, I just think are generally a problem. But you're right, we don't agree as well as you guys do.
Well, we could perhaps, we're gonna be doing some rewriting.
Yeah.
We could discourage those kinds of things further if indeed we felt that was the direction that elected officials think we should move.
I'll bring it up. And part of my notes here, I've said, where's it at? That we need to, here it is. We need architectural design better defined within the ordinance instead of just a lot of personal viewpoints, so that it's black and white. It's not questionable as to who likes what. I'll also make a note try to give better direction as far as where when I say we talk about parks, we're the dilemma right now as we keep getting all this land dedicated for parks. We can't finish the parks we have because we don't have the money to furnish them, and so now we're going to end up with more. And apparently people move into a neighborhood and they see a park there and they expect something to be in that park, and the reality is we really can't do it till we have the money. So it's kind of a catch-22.
I think we need to maybe focus more on getting the cash in lieu of land options so that we can develop the parks.
See this
that are
last
already
one.
there.
A very wise councilman said that exact same thing.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
gonna be faced with the trail going across, what is it, off of Parker, that development there where the pipeline is.
Well,
That's gonna be on our dollar. Is it needed? Very much so. But just a lot of discussion going into that, and we need to sit down and come to some kind of agreement to give direction back to you guys. That's all I have, Madam Chairman.
Staff report?
Madam Chair and commission members, you're going to have a rare opportunity at your next P&Z meeting to review an urban renewal area, be it brand new. Staff has been working on this for some time with a developer, and staff has made various promises to council, but it's part of our initiative to have a bike trail that connects from the Neil Smith to the downtown area, and hopefully, eventually, to the High Trestle Trail. That will be included in this proposal, as well as the abilities to upgrade some utilities that are in this area that need to be upgraded and upsized, as well as entryways into this where we will expand the and curb and gutter with the roads and expand the existing utilities. You'll be seeing this. This is known as the Bradshaw property, and you'll be provided a copy of that urban renewal plan in your next packet. If you have any questions prior to the meeting, please contact me. This is a very important step that P&Z is in favor of this, so I want to make sure that any questions are answered.
What's all in an urban renewal? Is it?
Well, it is your plan, looks like a comp plan, that kind of says, okay, this is what we have out here, this is how it's going to be developed, this is going to be our time frame, and if we were to do a TIF, what would the TIF cover? So we set up eligible projects in there.
This is on the existing Bradshaw property, the subdivision?
I guess I don't know, the existing kind of throwing me a little bit, Krista,
Well,
but
we
it would be
so
what's, it's called Deer Haven now.
Yes.
So behind.
Oh,
Not that part, but the.
oh, behind, between there and the lagoon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is that, 50, 30, 38 acres?
Yeah, I
30
don't remember.
38
It's,
acres.
it's dear, you've seen the plat, the master plan when they did, because they did a PUD for part, rezoning for part of it, and then the preliminary plat's been before you, actual construction drawings have been approved, but provides kind of a mechanism for some of the things that were included there, such as there was an old sanitary sewer line that kind of essentially serves the old part of town that runs across the Bradshaw property, so it allows that to be reconstructed to help eliminate some of the 90-degree turns, and there's some flat pipe, so it makes a more uniform slope and better turns in it, so it's going to flow better and improve that facility, and then the trail, so provides a mechanism so you kind of. I mean, it allows you to use the funding between the value of the land now and what the value of the land is
Now,
once the homes are there.
what trail is that back there?
It would be a trail that right now, if you recall, there was kind of a parkland that was that would be dedicated to the city on the north side, what I'm calling the northeast side of Broadway. So it starts roughly at a little bit north of the cemetery.
It would be north of the cemetery. About
On that vacant parcel, and it would run along the north side of Broadway, then across into the development, and then it would run between the new home and the existing home in
Yes, I
an
remember
easement
that.
there. And then it would eventually connect to what would be crossroads, and then swing back out to essentially the Casey's Corner, third.
Right into it.
Connect there, and eventually connect to the High Trestle Trail to the north.
We gotta get it downtown before we can start
Yeah.
going north again.
Yeah.
That's a long ways.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
Positives with that development down there is connectivity on streets to the original part of town, better drainage down there, that if anybody's been around this town for any length of time, know that that's been an ongoing issue down there. So it's gonna, those are two problems that it will solve, hopefully.
Where are they on that?
Pardon?
Where are they on building down there? I haven't been down there for a while.
They've got a lot of the land already preliminary graded. The construction plans have been approved. They're kind of waiting to see if the urban renewal plan is going to be approved. They have a bank that wants to see an urban renewal area approved before they release money.
And so what kind of a benefit is it for the developer?
His or their, if you will, is that they have upgraded facilities. They have the city participating in those upgrades, plus the amenities that would be added with the trail and everything is definitely a sell. Yeah, here's a trail and you can jump on this, and eventually you're going to be able to get to the sports complex, or you're going to be able to get to downtown, or whatever the case may be. Bike trails right now are the #1 selling item in a subdivision. It's big, it's huge. Oh, Justin, you do that kind of work.
Yeah, I think they're great. I mean, even if we can get right on that trail and hop on Nail Smith, and, it's not, definitely connecting some of it's the key. If you have all kinds of little pieces all over that you can't take anywhere, it's kind of the hard part.
This will start, because as we continue on, Olive Ridge Road is going to have it on the north side. We'll have the Neil Smith as somewhat of a backbone, but this will start to be a backbone too, to get to the downtown. But the hardest thing that we have is how do we get from Bridge Road or Leonard Park and get to the downtown. This is going to give us another avenue so we can become more of a bike-friendly community in the business district.
A little less sexy perhaps is maybe that's not the right word. Anyway, pick a different word.
Desirable.
It is the fact that there's water main improvements that would connect back up to Walker, some new hydrants, more valves, and that kind of thing at the other end of town too. It's a little less
Wow.
a little less wow factor. That wow factor is what I meant to say.
To an engineer, that's sexy.
As opposed to horizontal, vertical steel panels.
Before we move on, I have a question for Clifford.
Yeah,
Do you ever remember Chisel's ground being a cornfield?
yeah,
Do you?
years ago.
Predate 48 years ago or more?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't even remember it ever being a cornfield. Now, I remember Roosevelt and Lincoln being cornfields between me and you.
See, my cousins had a repair shop there.
Yeah, Marlon did, yeah.
And they was gonna make a hay of it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I remember all that. That was a
Yeah, I don't.
street.
48 years it's never been corn. But I'm splitting hairs, no pun intended.
No comment.
Yeah, maybe you should split hairs.
Is that it for staff report? Anything else?
That's all I have,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner report? Anyone?
I do have some. At the MPO meeting this month, I thought the Northwest Corridor was dead, but there was a presentation given on a study they did from the connector where Ridge Road connects to 141, about taking it on around that way. And they did a study, and after that they decided that, you know, running something off there to the west and around wouldn't really impact the traffic on 141 itself. So they basically recommended not going forward with that. But the one slide they threw up there that kind of got my attention, they still showed a green line from 35 all the way right through the middle of Polk City. So just let you know, we still need to remain vigilant on it. So
What a mistake.
yeah.
Right through the heart.
And the other thing that came up was the Des Moines Partnership, their annual trip to DC in the spring, usually in May. Now is the time to submit any requests that we have that want to be highlighted in the trip. And I don't know if the council has considered any of that yet or not, but I know in the past our trail going out to the High Trestle Trail has been on that list that has gone to DC, so I don't know.
That will continue to be on there,
So,
Dennis. You have to have a road that is of a certain status, in other words, bridge.
sure.
But that's 415, so that's the DOT, so we don't get much say in that. 3rd Street, that's the county, we don't get much say in that. Bridge, that's the county, we don't have much say in that. Parker would be the other one that would stand to receive federal funds if we needed something.
Just thought I'd pass it on for what it's worth. And unfortunately, I'm going to miss the next meeting. I think it's the 17th of November, right? Yeah, I'm going. We're
21st.
out of state.
You really going to miss that much fun that we're going to have with
I
you?
know. I just, you know, but I'm not going to fly back.
Oh.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Are we turning these in?
I make a motion
Please.
to adjourn.
Yeah, you're missing out.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.